All right, friends, so today we are talking with Mr. Keith Parker. Now, you may not know his face, but we want to get you familiar with him because he is a part of an organization that I absolutely love. So you are the president and CEO of North Georgia Goodwill, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so first things first, I absolutely love Goodwill. My entire outfit right now is a Goodwill purchase. I like to do reels and stuff where I show people how they can use a little bit of money and then get the most out of it, and I think Goodwill is amazing for that. So tell us how you got into this role and why Goodwill is something that's important to you.
Well, thank you for first the support. We appreciate everybody who shops or donates with Goodwill. But I came to Goodwill circuitously. That almost all of my career has been in public transportation, local government, that sort of thing. And I've run transit authorities in cities around the country: Charlotte, Portland, Richmond, Virginia, and then very recently MARTA here in Atlanta. I ran MARTA for 5 years as CEO. But then decided I wanted to try something totally different because to me the most pernicious problem that faces Atlanta is that this is a city where if you're born in several zip codes, it is the most difficult city in the country to get out of poverty. That in certain number of these zip codes, if you're born there, there's a 96% chance you'll be born into poverty, you'll live your entire life in poverty, and you'll die in poverty as much as 11 to 20 years sooner than people who live just 3 miles away. And when I think about that, I think, well, what's the fastest way, what's the most impactful way, particularly in the short term, of turning it around? And that is to get somebody in that household a good job, or at least on the pathway to a career. And Goodwill of North Georgia, that's what we do. We've been around for 100 years as of next summer. And in that 100 years, our mission hasn't changed. It is to put people to work. And so we help people of all walks of life, no matter where they may find themselves. We help them pursue the job and then ultimately the career of their dreams with no judgment. No matter where you stand, we'll stand with you. No matter where you want to go, we'll help you get there. And so that type of mission, that type of calling attracted me, and that's why I'm here.
So, and here, of course, we're in the month of April, and April is National Second Chance Month. For those of you who don't know, in 2023, President Biden actually made a proclamation, or was it 2022? 2023, that April would be recognized as National Second Chance Month. So those members of our community who have sketchy past, have been incarcerated, or convicted felons would get highlighted in April, and that organizations, jobs, the community in general would kind of come together to help move those people forward. And I'm a member of that community. So I'm a convicted felon. This is a mission that is dear to my heart. So when I heard that Goodwill had an entire program that is kind of utilized to help people like me find their way back into the community to be productive members of society, it definitely was something that made me more of a fan of Goodwill. And so not only to get this job that I have today, I got my outfit at Goodwill. It was you don't want to wear the same. Everyone has an interview outfit, right? You don't want to wear the same outfit to every interview. So going into Goodwill, and especially on a day, and finding a little tag with the color on it where it's 50% off, or shopping a dollar rack to get your interview outfit is one thing. But then also being able to, at that same place, go through training required to actually get you the job that kickstarts your life. That's a whole nother thing. And in the past, 2 years, you've helped it to employ more than 5,000 people?
Right. It took us a little longer than that, but let me just expand a little bit more. So we are a place, we like to think of ourselves as the ultimate teach a person to fish organization. That lots of organizations out there who we even partner with offer a handout, if you will, to folks who need help. And we absolutely support many of those organizations. But ultimately, we would like people to be able to completely take care of themselves. And quite often, because of the circumstances people find themselves in, through no fault of their own, you end up in very difficult situations.
Right.
We are an absolute second chance, third chance, fifth chance, however many times it takes, we'll be there. Because, from my vantage point, there's only been one perfect being. And
Come on.
The rest of us still struggling to try
Right.
to find our way.
Right.
And so our programs help a number of different people, and people coming out of the criminal justice system, and in some cases, some people still in it.
Right.
We're quite helpful in that we will literally go into some of the jails and prisons several months before the person is scheduled to be released and start some of our workforce training and development and so forth, so that on day one of coming out, they have a job already.
Right.
And what we have found is that the single biggest factor to a person not returning back into a life of crime or into those types of environments is a job.
Right.
And I often hear, unfortunately, a lot of politicians say, well, and they'll give examples. They'll say, well, there's this guy and he's been arrested 250 times and he went into this place and committed another crime and they let him back out and it just keeps happening.
Right.
And I can tell you, if he's been arrested 250 times and you put him back in the exact same situation, you can almost say with certainty he's going to be arrested number 251.
Right. Right.
That's where we come in that we want to give an alternative to a person because, the gangs are always hiring. Drug dealers are always hiring. So we want to offer an alternative to that so that person can feel good about themselves, feel good about the contribution they can make to their family. And then ultimately, individual helps build strong family builds strong neighborhood builds strong community.
Right.
And that's where we are. And over those last 5 years or so, we've helped over 5,000 folks coming out of the criminal justice system find work, and then, very importantly, putting them into not just entry-level jobs on occasion, but a pathway. We call our ABC approach: a job, better job, career.
Right.
So we may start in one level, but we're going to stay with them and provide those support services and networking and all those other things. So then springboard from that to a better job, and then ultimately, once the person's got all those pieces in a row, onto a career.
Right. And these aren't just jobs at Goodwill. This is a training that prepares them or us for jobs in the world. So it's not like, you go through this training and you get a job in a Goodwill establishment. You're saying, hey, we'll hook you up to get out there and go after what you want to do. We just want to help prepare you to get there.
Absolutely. In fact, only about 1,500 or so of the 23,000 people who we placed last year into jobs, more than any other nonprofit in Georgia, pretty much more than any other nonprofit. All the other Goodwills around the country do this sort of work as well. We're number one in the nation in terms of helping place people. But you're right, only a very small percentage of our folks actually work for Goodwill. That's one of the myths that hang out there, that everybody who goes through our career training end up working for us. Now, our career centers do often use our stores, particularly for people who have very low skills, folks who have just not worked in a very long time, or, in some cases, for obvious reasons, haven't had to learn how to dress for work, learn how to work with others, learn how to take care of the kids and schedule up the daycare and all those pieces. We work with them on everything. So some people need very, very little help. All they need is a chance.
Right.
Others need wraparound services, and we'll help wherever you may fall on that spectrum.
And this is amazing because, like I said, I'm a convicted felon, so I remember coming home. Of course, there was so much excitement and couldn't wait to get back home and be free and be around my family. But then the nostalgia, the good feelings, all of the butterflies kind of wear off, pretty soon when you realize you're leaning on family. And now you become this liability and you really don't know where to start. And I know there are a lot of programs for men, but there are far and few for women. And as a mom coming home and trying to figure out how to be a mom again and how to be a woman in the community and then a job. So having that as a resource where not only am I getting training to get employed, but I've also got a network where when it gets tough for me, I have people that have been here and who have seen this over and over again, who can help me navigate this space to become a more productive member of society. And, a lot of people don't look at the formerly incarcerated as an important piece of the community. And whether you choose to or not, they're not going anywhere. People are returning home from prison. So the best thing we can do is help them get the tools to kind of go out and be productive members of society, because they're your neighbors, they're your colleagues, they're the parents of your children that are going to school. So I think it's important that you guys do this work and that the community knows that this work exists. How does the community support what you do?
Well, first, I want to thank you for just an eloquent way of describing the challenges many returning citizens have. That the stigma part cannot be underestimated. You know, it is a humbling thing to have to check that box, and we have been working with a number of employers to try to get them to remove that. One interesting thing that's happened, and I'm going to answer your question directly, but one interesting thing that happened during COVID is that COVID made a lot of employers change their mind about that box.
I bet it did.
Because when they were desperate for talent, and they would come to us quite often,
Right.
and say, well, I need 10 new drivers, or I need 25 new folks in the warehouse, or I need 75 people. Man, I can schedule, I can pull together this huge deal, but I just can't find the talent. I ask, where are you looking?
Right.
Because there's a bunch of people who are ready to work, but you've got to look in places you haven't always looked before.
Right.
And then the reality for us is, and we keep statistics and measurements on everything we do, down to multiple decimal places as necessary. The folks who we help who are returning citizens tend to be more reliable and stay on the job longer than people who don't have those backgrounds. Now, the way people can help, I do a lot of speeches to different groups, and I always start off all my speeches by saying, how many of you have either shopped at or donated to a Goodwill or both? And everybody in the room always raises their hand. Everybody, every single time. And I say, well, how many of you know what we do with the profits? And then a smaller number raises their hand. So
Right.
some people do, but most don't. I say, well, when you shop or donate to a Goodwill, that is what generates the profit that allows us to do workforce development. And then with this workforce development, that's where we're training people to get that job, to get the better job, to move on to a career, to remove them from being people who are collecting governmental assistance to somebody who's paying taxes and
Right.
donating to
Right.
governmental programs and so forth. So when you shop and donate to Goodwill, that's what happens. That's how the magic begins. And just to go a little bit further, you know, you mentioned how tough it is. We try to remove all those barriers because if we tell a person, come to one of our training programs, and our programs range anywhere from somebody literally coming in and just needing to have their resume reviewed, we can do that in an hour, or
Right.
needing some interview skills, 2 hours, something like that. But some of our programs take as long as 12 to 16 weeks. If we tell them, hey, look, you need to go without a paycheck for the next 3 or 4 months while you're in this program, may as well tell them walk to the moon.
Right.
So we actually pay people a stipend while they are training with
Oh,
us for
wow.
many of our programs. In fact, we'll even help provide the transportation. So we've got deals and agreements with Uber and Lyft that they'll provide vouchers for them so they can get to and from, whether it's at our career center or some of the other training spots we have out there, and even continue to do that while, even when they first start working, because until you get the first couple of paychecks,
Right.
you still don't have the money to buy a MARTA pass or to get all your transportation. So we try to remove every single barrier that exists because unlike a person who's making a very significant amount of money, small things are irrelevant. You know, you can take care of a lot of small issues with money. You can take care of them. But if you're a returning citizen and suddenly you find out, and just to get the bus fare to get me to and from my job for this first week is going to cost me $35-40. And I've already asked my moms, I've already asked these friends, you know, I'm just tapped out on all the different folks who I can ask. We know that.
Right.
So we try to get those sort of things taken care of for you as well. Even down to the point where almost every job, I don't care what you're doing, you can be working in a warehouse, you can be working in a daycare, you can be working on a roof. Almost every job needs some level of computer literacy now. And you need to be able to tap into the internet and so forth. Many of our folks coming as returning citizens don't have those, don't have that. So we'll provide a laptop, we'll provide a hotspot to connect you to the internet, all those things too, while you're in our training and so forth. So again, removing all the barriers.
How does someone who's interested in being a part of the program reach out and get started?
See, we're bigger than a single program. We encourage returning citizens to apply for any of the things we're doing. So we have career fairs, we have some specific things that help returning citizens, but for the most part, all of our counselors, if you walk into any one of our 14 career centers or come to us online at careerconnector.org, you can be connected to one of our career counselors, and he or she will guide you right from there. So you don't have to say, hey, look, I'm a returning citizen. Right. Tell me how you can help me. Just say, hey, my name's Keith, and I'm looking for a job.
Come on.
And how can I find a job? And then we're going to work with you on getting you to what you need. Because some employers, again, aren't even asking that question anymore. They're looking for people who can come to work, be reliable, and do a good job while they're there. And that's what we're trying to get people trained for, is to do those three things. Show up, be good while you're there, and become very reliable and do a good job on that job. And that can lead to so many other great things.
Talking to Keith Parker of North Georgia Goodwill, CEO, President. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've learned a lot. I was already a fan of Goodwill, but now knowing how much more you all do, I'm definitely an advocate. So,
well, I want to thank you. I apologize for cutting you off, but I love hearing somebody who speaks with a bit of passion about their experience, because there's a lot of young ladies out there who needed to hear what you just said, because some of them are in their basements afraid to even come up for air. Some of them have driven near the Goodwill site but go, I just can't go in there. They're going to treat me like I'm some person with, horns growing out of my head. But you telling them your experience and your journey makes it a whole lot easier for that next person. So thank you for doing what you do.
I wish I knew what Goodwill offered, because sis was 8 months at Dunkin' Donuts and a year at a factory before, God blessed me with radio. And, my navigation has just kind of taken off from there. But we all got to start somewhere. So today could be your day one, North Georgia Goodwill.